Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Okay, guys, so we have with us tonight from the crazy new film Things Will Be Different, writer-director MICHAEL FELKER and stars Riley Dandy and Adam David Thompson. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was awesome to have all you guys on here. Yeah.
This was a wild movie, so we definitely want to talk about it.
Yeah, Brian and I love the movie. We got sent a screener. We covered it a couple episodes ago. Really enjoyed it. Before we get started, I did want to give you guys a chance to kind of just do like a quick introduction, maybe some other stuff that you've done that our listeners could hear about.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Adam, I feel like you have the longest list, so you go first.
Yeah, go for it, Adam.
Yeah, but I mean, the longest doesn't mean the best. Hi, I'm Adam David Thompson. I have been doing film and TV for a long time. I mainly started out in commercials, but I've worked with everybody from M. Night Shyamalan to Liam Neeson and Scott Frank and Noah Baumbach, and Michael Felker and Riley Dandy.
Yeah.
And
I know them. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I've played a little bit of everything from a cowboy to a vampire. So I have a good time. Even if other people aren't.
He knows how to have a good time.
That's a good button.
I'm Riley Dandy, and I am mainly in the genre world. I do a lot of genre films. I think people know me most from Joe Begos's Christmas Bloody Christmas. And then I had a fun little rom-com called That's a More on Netflix. And now I'm excited to be talking about Things Will Be Different.
And last and certainly least, I'm Michael Felker. I am the writer, director, co-producer, co-editor of Things Will Be Different. My main work comes from editing, mainly the most well-known, the Justin Benson, Aaron Moorhead movies, Spring, The Endless, Synchronic, Something in the Dirt. I even PA'd on their first movie, Resolution, but I've also edited on children's TV and music videos and comedy things, and directed some other shorts. So, and I'm a terrible actor.
I disagree.
He's actually great. He has a cameo in this movie, and he's very good.
Yeah,
I'm very good at being terrible. A terrible redneck.
He went full method.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too that you said you started off editing. So many, I've noticed that's a lot of guests we've had on have gone from editing to onto like writing and directing. And I always found that perspective kind of neat because when I was once upon a time, basically when I was going to trying to be in the film making industry, I was big on editing and stuff. And so I feel like it gives you a good perspective if you start there because you can kind of see what it's got to give you an edge, right? Like you got to be like, okay, I'm not gonna do this because I know I would edit that out myself later on. Right?
It gives you like a good postmortem on how a movie how the production went. First of all, you're just like, oh, I see what they tried to do and what they got working. But it also kind of gives you like, once you start seeing dailies and start putting stuff together, you start to be like, I don't know if this movie is going to be good or not immediately. So I learned a lot from movies that worked. I learned way more from things that did not quite gel, is the best way I would put it. And I tried to form a voice based off that. So I feel like all directors come from like the craft they came from before, and some are like production designers, some are an actor as well and are more performance based. I just come from editing and being like, all right, I like a movie that feels like a movie and forming my voice from there. So that's a good call there, knowing that editors can see that.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. That kind of came off the cuff though, just because I kind of forgot that you did start off editing. And real quick before I get to your question, a movie you have to see just as a fun thing. I know it's going to sound really weird, but an old Albert Brooks movie from the early '80s called Modern Romance.
Oh,
it's on my list.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I'm a big Albert Brooks fan to begin with, but he plays an editor in it, and there's this hilarious scene when he's trying to talk to his girlfriend. They have these like communication problems, and he brings up the editing. I won't say what, so you could be like enjoy that scene, but it's definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's funny because he's literally trying to edit this movie that the director's driving him crazy on throughout the movie. So I think you get a
Oh,
kick out of that.
okay. Yeah, I gotta
Um,
check that out. That's on my list
but
for sure.
yeah. So really, what to ask you is though. So what? Because this movie is so it's so cool and it's got so many layers. So what inspired you though to come up with the story for this?
It really just came from making a movie for my science fiction loving father. It's how we bonded when I was a kid. Especially like, moving a lot and post divorce. It was like his love language, so to speak, was like, hey, I'm going to take you to a fun science fiction movie and we'll go to like a Taco Bell afterwards and talk about it for a long time. And then that's how I got to like not only wrap my head around good science fiction or bad science fiction, but how I learned like what my dad likes, what he finds fun. Like, studying his reaction was kind of like how I learned how to read movies, so to speak. Same thing with my mother and sister too, but he is way more like emotive. He's very like he rubs his hands when he gets really excited and stuff like that. So so I made this movie for him. It was basically like what was a sci-fi yarn that he would have a good time with, and he was like my audience North Star. And he's an engineer, so he's a very heady guy already to begin with. So he just loves a good like puzzle like film that's also exciting.
I also just have to mention something about Felker's dad is he was on set the whole time, and he would drive us back, from set to our the place that we were staying. And having an engineer say to me that my job is hard was the most rewarding thing in the world. He'd be like, "Man, I don't know how you did that today. That's really hard." And I now think that we are just as smart as engineers.
Yep,
It's
that's
just
a fact.
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny too when you said Felker's dad. That almost sounds like its own show to begin with, doesn't it? It sounds like a
Yeah,
TV
Yeah.
show.
sounds
Like
like an 80s sitcom. That's great.
it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Like you know what? Like you guys should write that. Like make it about a young filmmaker trying to make like sci-fi for his dad, and it just
I'm
there you
telling you,
go.
I would watch a show starring Doug Felker in a
Absolutely.
heartbeat.
Yes.
Well, he finds it so exciting, and it's the main reason why he would say something like, "Oh man, acting is so hard," is because he's worked in like a field where he's like his job is like stuff that breaks, and wondering why things break was like
Yeah.
a big part of his job for a long time, like a risk analysis thing. And he always said like anything we do in the creative field, he's like, you guys are actually like making things. You guys are making stuff from nothing and making it and giving it life. And he thinks that's just so much more impressive and incredibly hard to do compared to what he does, which is like, I just take things and break them. So I do the opposite. Yeah.
So this next one is for Riley and Adam. What were some of the things that attracted you to this project? Because I know you had to read this script and like your mind was blown reading this crazy. Not that we will give anything away on this podcast, but
Yeah,
all these crazy
gotta keep
twists
that
and
one secret.
turns. Yeah. So what attracted you guys to the script?
Riley, you want to go?
Oh, sure. That was kind of cute. We were both like, "You wanna?"
No.
No,
You go.
you go. My absolute favorite thing about this story is the fact that it's a love story between a brother and a sister, and also a mother and a daughter. And I think looking and dissecting the relationship between estranged siblings is something that we don't get to see a lot. And to be honest, it was really nice as a woman to read a script where, I wasn't being sexualized or romanticized in any way. And I think it was a really refreshing story for me to read. And that was initially what drew me to it. And then obviously, as we started getting further into it, all the layers and the relationship really between my character and her daughter, and sort of what the like devastating effect that would have of not being able to get back to the one person that drives you and that you have purpose for. That's really what drew me to it.
Yeah, I would say similarly, the sibling relationship really drew me in immediately. Having, adult siblings is just not something we see very often.
Yeah.
And I also have an extremely close relationship with my brother. And so I just understood what that meant, and it's so deeply embedded in me. I just knew that I understood Joe pretty quickly from just that in. But I think the other thing is, and you're right, like reading through the script, I had a lot of questions. I read it through multiple times, which I usually do, paying attention to different aspects of it, whether it be the relationship or the acting or the character growth or the lore or the world or whatever it may be. And while I wasn't clear on every aspect of, the lore, I just understood that the world building was so clearly done that I knew that it would all, fall into place. So if you don't have that world built in such a nice way, and then you start trying to add in different variables, a lot of times it gets shaky. But with a very like sturdy piece to enter those things in, all of a sudden becomes intriguing and not confusing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I like that. Oh, sorry, Tim. Go first.
Oh, that's fine. No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm the same way. When I first watched the film, I'm gonna be quite honest. I did not get every nuance of it.
You
But
didn't get it straight
I
away?
did not get it straight away.
Oh,
No.
I'm
really?
not that smart.
That is
3 times for me
A-okay.
it took to get everything,
but
I think.
Yeah.
but I loved it. I mean, it didn't matter though. It did
Yeah.
not matter. I was not frustrated when I got through the end of it because it felt like it made sense and it was satisfying regardless. And it was then it rewards repeated viewings because then you can go back and kind of put all the pieces together. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of the things we said, Tim, too. If you remember that when we were like, wow, like we're like, this movie was really good, and we're like, did you understand it all? And we're like, well, not all of it, but it didn't matter. It was so good anyway.
Yeah.
It's like it
Yeah.
was so entertaining, and it's what it is. And so Tim's got a brother, and I have 3 brothers, and so now that we're all adults, we hang out and we. And now it's that brother, but you guys captured that needling still, but like at an adult level, that thing that siblings do, like that where
Yeah,
you're
I
making
caught
fun
up
of
on
the
that immediately.
bracelet, and you're like just and you're like eating and then you open your mouth and see the chewed
Yeah.
food. Just that little scene in the beginning kind of it's amazing because you at that point you're kind of like you gotta came into this movie in the middle of something. You don't know what you're in the middle of other than there was you kind of or surmise that they have this bag of something that they're not supposed to quite have, and until as it gets revealed what's going on. But what's great is like you kind of come in and the first thing you get is that relationship, and it automatically I think invests you in there because you're like, you know what, I like these characters already. I only know them for like 30 seconds, but I'm already in on this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to the writing and both your performances in that because you both are amazing to capture all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aw,
Yeah,
thanks so much.
I think that, that was another thing that the script really showed me was that in a story like this, in order for an audience to kind of go along with you, you do have to care about the main characters in order to
Yeah.
kind of get tied up in all the nuances and whatnot. And so that was really important to me. It was like nailing that relationship and that interaction between the two of them, and making the audience invest in our relationship first, because it's really what happens before all the weirdness can kind of comes in to crash it. So to have a sturdy base that you could start firing things at, that to me it was the most important aspect to try and
Yeah.
accomplish. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Definitely. So this one's more for Michael. So this one has obviously, as we kind of just kind of like alluded to a little bit, it's got a really cool like twisty plot that where lots going on, and it's you're trying to focus on a lot of stuff going on there. But what was your process in terms of directing that? Where you're trying to like what's going on, and you're trying to direct it to people that aren't sure, the characters aren't sure what's going on yet, but there's this big picture in there. Was there any challenges with trying to keep the directing to what was at the present versus what was going on in the bigger universe of the movie?
Yeah, it's always kind of tough because especially when you're editing, like a lot of the easy, especially my experience working within like cosmic horror or general horror and whatnot. You have the tendency to just like a crutch to be like, I'll just give them the information, even if it doesn't feel organic. The audience knows it, and therefore we can live a little bit longer. But every time I see that, it always gets me in the gut being like, oh, the movie literally has to like fix itself real quick in order for me to understand. But I feel like in order to latch on and really feel what Joseph and Sydney's characters are going through, you kind of have to like know what's going on as the person making the world, but make sure you're still, as much as you can, stay in that perspective so you can have the audience feel the fear, feel the confusion, feel like the breakthroughs really hard in this as the story goes along. So like our goal was just like shoot it and make it as confidently as possible with like an amazing cast, amazing crew, and feel confident in the perspective we lock you in with very specific choices that definitely have all this intention behind it. So that way when you do watch the movie, you're basically knowing like, you know what, these people know what they're doing. They have an incredible cast with the characters that I really want to latch onto. And there's like a professionally made movie with very deliberate choices going on. There has to be something in here. I'm going to now try to buy into the mystery and go into the world. So that was my goal, was just to, you know, if we're going to leave this part very vague, which is what's happening around them and the world and the rules, we have to make everything as else like clear and confident as possible. So that was always the goal, and that's harder than what I say right now. But I had a lot of great collaborators that made it amazing.
So, Michael, nice. I have to ask you, kind of a piggyback on that. Like, did you have to like write down all these? Time travel movies are notorious for rules. You have to have time travel rules, and they have to make sense. Like, did you have to like map all this stuff out with all these loops and time branches and stuff?
No, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's funny because like the script, once it was ready, we kind of fast tracked the production, but I had this world for about, since like the mid 2010s. Like this world has existed for me, and I've, you know, had false starts with different stories, but I know how everything kind of works. And so like I overthink the world, just like my dad is a science fiction, like, you know, reader and lover of film. Like I overthink all the rules. So I just sit there and going like, how do you communicate without people like from the past to the future without having to like leave a trace or anybody mess with it? All right, you make a safe, you have a tape recorder, and all these little things that like have very deliberate design just because I've thought about the rules for so long. So there is like, you know, lots of bad drafts, lots of bad drawings. There was a map at one point in the script that shows like the whole layout of like the farm and everything. Like it's very much thought out in a way, and it's kind of silly to say like, oh yeah, I have this whole world written out and everything, and I only show you like a very small fraction of it like in the movie. But I feel like that's kind of, it makes it fun for me, and it makes it fun for people who are like puzzle solvers, because you know, I've had a lot of like movies that I watch with my dad and my sister who are going like, well, that movie was fun, but it kind of told me everything it wanted face value. So, well, I don't know, let's go do something else. And then you just never think about it again. So it's a delicate balance, but a lot of work goes into showing you just this much.
Yeah. I also think we like everything that's, not everything obviously, but so much that's made now is made to be content that like spells everything out for you. And it's very rare that you watch something that you actually have to think about afterwards, as opposed to just forgetting about it the second you're done watching it. And I know that this can be frustrating for a lot of viewers because they have to, you know, they can't be on their phones while they're watching it really. But I think it's sparked really interesting conversations, and I feel like not many movies do that now.
100%.
Yeah, it's funny you said that about the phone, because you have to pay attention to every single thing. Like I sneezed and I think I had to rewind it because I was like, wait, what did I miss? Because the next thing I know, you're in like another room. I'm like, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I definitely get that. So this one's for Riley and Adam, actually. So you guys were, as I said earlier, you guys were both so amazing in this film. So did you have any challenges though? Because I'm sure by reading the script, you knew all that was coming. So, but you know, it's like, it's probably like, did you have any challenges trying to keep, you know, your characters in where they needed to be at that moment without kind of like, you know, and trying not to tip off anything? I mean, if that makes sense, you know, like, are you, you know, would you, like, how did you basically get into the mindset of those characters, like, at each moment?
You know, I think that with the basis of just boiling it down to something as simple as just looking into Riley's eyes and knowing that, you know, we are together and that we're going to figure this out. And, you know, that Riley and I had such a relationship from the second we met each other, and such a sibling relationship, that it was easy to come back to her and to be, you know, in between action and cut, to just rely on each other, I think. But, you know, with movies that have these different lore aspects, and the audience might see something coming before the character does, and all of that stuff. I think that, as an actor, you have to buy in 100% to the lore, or the audience is going to feel cheated. Or, for instance, and not to, of course, name drop again, but when I was doing the movie with M. Night Shyamalan, there's a scene where
It was Glass,
one
right?
of,
You did?
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a
I
scene
love
where
Glass.
Sam Jackson kind of appears in the hallway, and we all are kind of wondering how he got here, and what's going on, because he's in a coma and all of this stuff. And I originally played the scene with the other orderly just being like, you know what, it's like, whatever, it's all the pills are here, let's just get him back in the room. And Knight approached me and he said, if you play it that way, the audience is going to want you to die. Because they know that this isn't right. They know that something's going on. So if you're flippant about it, you're no longer them anymore. And I've never, that's always kind of stuck with me. So in the moment of whatever is happening lore wise, and, if it's outside of our own world and rules, I just always wanted to be fully bought into whatever was happening. And I think that Michael had such a great way of, we all had a shorthand to be, right before going into a scene saying, okay, so where are we coming from? Because we shot so out of order and all over the place. And, it would take us 2 seconds. Where are we coming from? What's happening? Okay, great. Let's go. And that's kind of how it worked. And I think that having a small production, it allowed for that kind of interaction,
Yeah. And having the time to develop that relationship with each other. And also, Michael had a Rolodex of answers in his brain at all times. So whenever we had any question, it was different with Adam and I, because he'd be like, Riley, do you want to know? Because I didn't want to know everything, because Sydney doesn't know everything. And so I found that to be a really important distinction between Joe and Sydney, is that Sydney's main priority and main goal is to get back to her daughter and to try as hard as she can to figure out what these theories are that could potentially be the reason this is happening. And then, Joe buys into the lore, like you said, a little more than Sydney does, because he has to go through it so many more times. But I was just always impressed with the way that Felker was like, I've got an answer. Do you want it?
Yeah. Yep.
So
there was always an answer, for sure.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest thing as a director, was just being like the glossary in which people can refer to of, hey, is this prop the right thing? Or, hey, is this choice or this line delivery like what I'm supposed to be doing based off what I know and don't know? And I would be like, well, I can give you what your character wants, or I can tell you what we all, as the dungeon master, so to speak, what you should know.
Yeah.
But it was helpful to piggyback off the prior answer with editing, what Adam was talking about before, which is like, hey, because we shot so out of order, especially with summer and winter. I actually had a cut of the winter version of the movie while we were shooting summer. So if we're picking up a scene in the summer, which was like 6 months after we shot the winter, Adam's like, where did I just come from? And I would have an edit of literally the scene before being like, here's what happened literally like previously on this movie on a phone.
So
and they would look at it and go like,
because
cool.
Is because there's little things like, was I out of breath? Like, was I coming from somewhere?
Yes.
And with Joe, Joe has a lot of like little injuries that kind of begin to pile up. Like, is his leg injured yet? Is his hand cut? Like, there's just so many different aspects to it that it was really nice for Felker to be like, here's literally what we're cutting together from what we already shot. So that was extremely helpful.
Like, we didn't have a script supervisor, which is genuinely insane to look back on. We don't have anyone that was looking at that continuity
for a film like this.
Wow.
We didn't have any
Figured you need
continuity
like
tracking
5
whatsoever. Yeah, and if we had like a debate on whether like Riley's character had a beanie on or not, I would literally have to run upstairs in the house, go to the DIT station, and pull up that scene and be like, she had a hat, put the hat on.
I will say it was such a group effort too, because our makeup artist and also our wardrobe stylist. They were also incredible at keeping track of where we were, and I don't know how they did it, because between Michael and then Jess and Alyssa, they made sure that everything was continuing on the way it should have been, and I'll forever be impressed with that.
They were asked to do so much more than their job required them to, and they were on the top of their game. So I was so lucky to have both of them.
Yeah,
for sure.
we'd be like running off to set, and Alyssa, our wardrobe stylist, would be like, no hat. All right, go. It was great.
Yeah, she had like a spreadsheet. Both of them had a spreadsheet with every single thing on it, and they would just pull it out and be like, no, take that jacket off, replace it with this jacket, put that on, you're out. And
this is look 2A, now you're in look 3B, right? And it's just got like a whole calendar. It's like a whole thing.
You think about that now, and it's actually, I think about it, and I'm like, that's actually so anxiety inducing. But when we were in it, everyone was just doing their job. But now I look back on it, and I'm like, I don't know how none of that was messed up.
I know.
Very lucky.
You think when you guys release the Blu-ray, you have to have like a thing where it says like Felker's Facts, and it like pops up on the screen like as it's going on. You can be like, like VH1 like pop-up video. You need to have like a version of that. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's such a great idea, Brian, and I wish I thought of that.
Can we get it back?
When I made the special features.
No, just make a special edition version. And Tim and I have been, I'll come out bluntly, Tim and I have been begging to come on a Blu-ray somehow at some point. So if you need us to some kind of help, you just call us. We'll come over.
Deal.
So the next one is, so this one's kind of for all of you though. So this might be kind of tricky, but like, so if this is one of those films that actually, wait, no, this is just for Michael, but actually it's just good for everyone, actually. Sorry, I scratched that. This could be good for everyone. So this is one of those films that have a lot going on in it, obviously. So, but if you were to pitch it to somebody to like get them to watch it, how would you all like pitch it to someone, like to, kind of entice them to rent it or check it out?
Felker has it boiled down really well. There's a reference to soup in there as well. So
I can start off with like here's what I've been pitching, and then I would love to see what a Riley or Adam like swerve would be with it. But like basically it's like it's a sci-fi thriller, but it's also got horror elements and familial drama stuff that make it like a crazy soup with a little bit of dash of noir on top. But it's it's just the pitch of the log line, which is like the first like 10 minutes are just like you have to see what's next, which is brother and sister commit a robbery, and they're on the run from the cops, and they go and lay low in an isolated farmhouse that is actually a time traveling safe house. And so they wait there for 2 weeks while the cops and their time die down, and by the time they try to go back to the original time, they're trapped there from mysterious forces who run the house, and then everything goes crazy. And when you hear that, that elevator pitch, I'm just like, that's to me, that sounds cool. I want to see that movie. So
yeah.
Mine's been much more simple, because like I think when you say sci-fi, like the sci-fi umbrella is so massive that I have been pitching it as a family drama. Because it is so grounded that it like at the core, to me, it is a family drama about a brother and sister that end up getting embroiled in a sci-fi background over and over again. That's been like a very simple. I've kept it pretty vague. Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah, I do too, because I don't want to give anything away to the people who I'm talking to about it, but I say it's a sci-fi thriller about a brother and sister who have committed a crime, and they're trying to escape from the law. So they find a magical safe house in which has a portal that goes into a different time to lay low while the cops pass and forget about what happened. And we were supposed to stay there for 2 weeks. Once we try and go back at the end of the 2 weeks, we cannot get back through, and hilarity ensues.
Yours is way more involved than mine.
I'm a thinker, Riley.
I'm just like, some brother and sister and some time loops, and that's it.
See, that's what makes it awesome. That's what makes
Yeah.
it awesome, that all 3 different people that were all part of it have come up with a different pitch for it, which is
It's
amazing.
true.
Which kind of is a great microcosm of how good this movie is, because
I
it
guess.
is all that.
I think I'm just scared of butchering it, so I just try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Brother and sister time loops is immediately already a win for me too. So
Yes.
you did good there.
Yeah.
So we are a horror podcast. We got to
Yeah.
ask, favorite horror film? Go.
I know, Riley, I know you got asked this on Katie's show, so I apologize if you got the repeat question, but
No, it's good. It's always good to think about. I said this on her podcast as well, but one that will forever scare the shit out of me is The Strangers. It always freaks me out.
Mm.
Yeah.
The original one or the newest one that came out?
The original one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one that I saw that I like paranormal stuff doesn't bother me. It's like real people being weird for the sake of being weird that I really don't like. I'm like, why are you doing that? Stop it. Like, go home and eat dinner and be like, don't do that. So yeah, The Strangers for me, probably.
Adam.
Michael. Well, I have a really awful, boring answer, which is I don't watch horror films because I have a very weak constitution, and it scares me. I don't like things jumping out at me. In a fight or flight situation, I'm a fighter, and that energy doesn't exist well on a couch. And but if like sci-fi, I feel like would The Shining be considered?
Oh,
Yeah.
There's a
yeah.
lot of
Well,
blood.
that's one of my top 5.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's in my
so-
top 5 too, yeah.
Yeah.
I just rewatched it again. Like I rewatch it every couple of years, and I was on a flight back from LA actually for the premiere, and I watched it through again, and it always amazes me. Like
it's
the intricacies of that story and his performance and like the things that he's able to accomplish is just it's phenomenal to me.
Yeah.
But I'm also the kid who watched Psycho at like age 8, and if there's a shower curtain to this day, it's going to be half open when I'm taking a shower because I got to check and make sure nobody's trying to murder me.
You need to listen to our last episode. We went through a bunch of because we did the new Salem's Lot, so we went through this whole Stephen King thing, and Shining came up, and I said the same thing about the original Salem's Lot. Like, I could not be in a house that had those open windows that like those glass things because I don't want a vampire coming in. And so and I saw that when I was like 8 years old too. So I'm like, okay, that's like frightening, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I was going to ask like as a follow-up being like, what kind of parameters are we talking about here? This is how the Felkers break down best of, because we're just like, are we talking about scariest? Are we talking about best like encapsulation of horror? Or like there's different parameters, but I guess given our talks here, it's just like, what's the one that like messed you up the most? Like, what's the one that like, oh man, like I remember exactly the moment I got scared by this thing, and now I try to like get ready for it every time I see the movie, or I try not to watch the movie again. I would say, the movies that really messed me up when I was younger were The Exorcist was a huge one when I was younger. Considering the crab walk with the stairs was genuinely one of the most scary things. I like ran out of the room and was just like, stop the movie.
Yeah, that's not okay.
I do that to scare my husband, and he hates it.
You do the crab walk?
I mean, a version.
We're all
of
like
it.
shocked. We're like, wait, you could do it now. Stop! Wait, we're stopping the podcast. Pull back on the camera. We need to see this right now. No,
it's scary enough. Yeah, and my husband is like Adam. He hates scary movies, so he's always like, stop it.
Yeah.
See, that's youth talking. See, Tim and I were at that age where if we tried to crab walk, we'd never get up from that position.
Get back up from that. No.
Yeah, I'd be like, that's it. I can't move. I'm now crab position forever. Just make me a table kind of thing. Yeah.
If I'm checking my blind spot and sneeze at the same time, it's like my whole back is done for the rest of the day. So
I just want to see what Riley's version of the crab walk is, which is I think is just like maybe like the worm or something like that.
I know, we need to see this.
Tick towards hilarity.
She'll post it on Instagram, guys.
Yeah, please do that. Yeah, because we follow you guys. I want to see this. I gotta see this thing.
Just
Yeah.
like scared out of her mind, and you just cut to Riley doing the work.
Commenting like, "Why did you do this?" You're like, "I don't know. This podcast and my co-stars and director made me do it.
Yes,
We shamed you into it." It was funny too, Riley. You had mentioned on Katie's show actually another movie that I guess that scared you a little was that Hide and Seek with Robert De Niro.
Yes, I feel like
That
no one has seen
Yeah.
this.
No, I've seen it because it was filmed at my cousin's house. Like that house was
Oh,
my cousin's house. It's in Ossining, New York.
wow.
They actually
What?
film a couple of things there because they filmed what was that James Spader show that he did where he's
Blacklist?
yes, they filmed
Blacklist,
an
yeah.
Oh,
episode there too. And now granted the insides were somewhere else, but I remember it was neat
yeah,
because when we went and saw they rented at a theater when it came out so we could all go and see it,
yeah,
and we could see
yeah.
the scene and like that was my cousin's window where she got Elizabeth Shue got thrown out. So
No
it's like,
way.
yeah, so it's kind of
Wow.
cool.
That's
When you said that, I was like, oh my god, if we ever get her on, I gotta tell her this.
yes. That movie. That was one of the first horror movies I saw as a
It's
kid.
really
You know,
good, I thought. I like
like-
that one.
yeah, I do too. And I feel like it's underrated. Like not a lot of people talk about it. And I'm still terrified of closets now because of that movie. Yeah, so good. Beautiful house.
Oh yeah, no, it's actually a really cool inside. That's where we used to go for Thanksgiving all the time. But once COVID hit, we kind of they kind of did stop doing it, and then we just never went back. And now I moved
Yeah,
out here anyway, and so
yeah.
it was sad because they used to pack that house with like relatives for Thanksgiving. It was cool. But now that we went completely off sidetrack, we went from
Yeah,
crab
yeah, yeah.
walking to Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We'll bring it back around, but we do
still
want
had
that
a.
walk on video.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We still need an
No,
answer.
I'll just go through
Oh
the
yeah.
other set pieces that wrecked my brain and see if Riley can recreate them. Let's see. I really we were talking about The Shining, like there as the late death in that movie with Jack Nicholson, the axe, like freaked me the hell out as a kid. I remember being in the theater when the first ghost walks by and past Haley Joel Osment in Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
and everyone
Oh,
freaks out.
yeah.
Same thing with
I actually
Signs and the
threw
Alien.
candy when that happened. I was it like startled me
Yeah.
so much. I had Sour Patch Kids and they were everywhere.
Yeah,
Have you,
it's
Michael? Have
scary.
you seen It Follows?
Yeah. Oh God, that was. I
There's
saw
that
it.
jump scare with the guy in the doorway. I'm like, that one freaked me out. And I'm not, Tim's usually the one that gets freaked out with jump scares, but that one freaked me out, I will say.
Oh, that movie is
Me
so
too,
genius
Tim.
because that movie's so genius because it makes you scared of a wide shot, and wide
Yep.
shots are like the most
Yeah.
unscary thing possible. It's like you see everything, you know where everything's coming from, but little dot on the horizon is freaky as hell.
You
Yep.
have no idea how excited I am that there's a sequel coming for that because that was one of my
Oh, yeah.
favorite movies. Oh my God, I loved it. And I just thought of another project for you guys. It's called Felker's Nightmares. But this time you talk about your scariest scenes and Riley has to act them out. So
That
that's,
sounds great.
All right,
You
cool
know?
anthology.
That-
she'll
along
come in with an
Felker's
axe
dad.
like through the door, like here's Riley.
Yeah, it'll
kind of
be like
thing.
the new it'll be like the new Black Mirror, and you can
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's just me in different scenarios.
yeah, it's always different actors in that, but this one is just Riley.
That
Yeah.
won't be boring at all. That'd be great.
No,
It's like-
it won't bore me.
It'll be like
No,
the Twilight
this-
Zone. I just open the door and be like, guys, something freaked me out. Here's what happened. And then we
Yeah,
just
no,
shut up.
exactly.
God damn it! Let's do it.
See, we're idea
but-
people on this podcast. We
Yeah,
don't just
Brian's
do
the
the
idea
interview.
guy.
We come up with new projects for everybody. No,
Look
Yeah.
at this. This is already an amazing little studio we got going on here. Because
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm excited for the new It Follows. I think that was going to be the other one because like David Robert Mitchell is. I've talked with him a few times. He's a Florida State Film School alum, so he's.
Oh, okay.
We all love him to death down there, and It Follows is a favorite amongst all of us. There's a lot of our alumni who worked on the movie that
He
love.
was my
nice.
first
Awesome.
horror director on Twitter. Like when
Oh,
I,
that's right. I remember
when I
that.
came-
We
when I
just
came-
started the podcast.
we had
then.
just started the podcast. I came out of theater and I loved the movie so much. I tweeted the director and said how
Aw.
much I love the movie, and he
Aw.
sent me a like, and I'm like, Texas, I got a like for the director. I was so excited.
Oh wow!
So- Yeah, that was
He's
pretty
a
cool.
very cool dude. And yeah, I could go on forever about all these horror set pieces, but if you have like one horror set piece that just freaks me the hell out, your movie is already like a thing that I'll never forget. So
Yeah.
I'll stick with those handful of ones as scariest movies, best horror movies.
Nice. So, I know we'll try and wrap this up. I know we kept you guys kind of long, but so real quick. So, while this is overall it's kind of a heavy film, but there is some levity in there. There's some heartwarming. There's a whole bunch of everything in there. But so, do you have any like fun stories from the set that you want to share?
I think day one is a pretty fun story.
Is it a fun story? I tested positive for COVID on day one of the shoot.
Oh no.
And so I showed up to set. We had done rehearsals. I had been around everybody. Like there
We
was,
were living together.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, so and we were in like small cars together. And for some reason, again, it's just the weak constitution, I believe. It's just. So I was very excited day one to kind of come in and just, we had been working on it for months. We had been talking with each other over Zoom and going through all this stuff. We had finally gotten on location and like put feet on the ground and like look at the space and all of that stuff. I was just very amped and ready to go. And at that point in the SAG bylaws, we were still testing 3 times a week. And I was sitting there, got tested. I was like, looking over script stuff and, making notes and all that. And our amazing COVID compliance officer, also / like, Johnny on the spot, everything is Brittany, who's just amazing. She came up to me. She's like, can you put on a mask? And I was like, I'm not around. She's like, we need you to put on a mask. And I was like, why? She goes, you tested positive. We're going to test you again. And I said, yeah, test me again because I'm not sick. I don't feel sick. I've had COVID twice already and I felt awful. This time is not COVID. So swab me again. We swabbed again. She came back. She's like, it's positive again. And I said, no way, dude. Take me to a lab right now. I want the centrifuge. I want everything happening. And I want it to be like, I want a person in a lab coat to come around and say, you absolutely have it. Not these like little paper things that we're putting in our noses. So we went to a CVS that had like an hour long, whatever those tests were called, the really accurate ones. It's not PCP. That's something different.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I think that'll give a different reaction than the COVID test. But
yeah. And they came back and they're like, "Yeah, you have COVID." So I had to go pack up all my stuff in the house that Riley and I were living at and move to one of the seediest hotels I've ever had the pleasure of being inside of, and was in there by myself for like 5 to 7 days. But I do feel
that's probably
like
where you need the PCP at that hotel room.
That's and look, at this hotel, guaranteed I could have found some PCP if I wanted to. But it was actually in the long run, it was super helpful because I really experienced like that pent up like loneliness in a very profound way in those few days and like in the isolation. And so when I came back to set, I was even more like ready to go, and so I still feel awful about it, even though like I wasn't like licking subway poles or anything like that. It wasn't like I was like trying to get COVID. And I had tested. We had to test 48 hours before we flew because of SAG bylaws, and I had tested negative, and everything was fine. So it was just such a surprise, and the crew and Riley like handled it beautifully. And I just felt I just was in a hotel just feeling awful. Like I just felt, wasn't sick. I just felt bad for like a film that we already had such limited time to make that I was, out of commission. So, but
it was pretty sad. Yeah.
It was a bummer, but
we're
he came
sitting
back.
here, so
But he came back and killed it, and now it's like no one can watch this movie and know that he had COVID and had to go into quarantine for 5 days. Like it's great.
Well, now I know, but I won't. I won't let it affect me.
Delete.
Just between us, guys.
Yes, it's that and our 12 listeners. That's it.
Yeah,
this on a Patreon tier.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, baby.
We also, I think a great story from the shoot is we had to film in different segments. So we had to go there during winter and then come back during summer. And we shot the winter portion first, and we were shooting in Fremont, Indiana. I'm from Southern California, so I am not used to snow or ice or sleet or hail or whatever the hell is going on over there. And there was an ice storm. And
oh no.
it really wrecked some things for us, but there were electrical fires happening and trees falling, and It power was out for 3 days, and we were shooting through like it. Yeah, that was wild.
That one was
Because
crazy. Yeah.
where we were shooting, we were like way out in Amish country.
Yeah.
So we were like one of the only buildings in that area that had electricity running to it. And
That
so
needed it.
and that needed it. And so the priorities for the power company were not to come that far out and hook us up. So Shane and Michael and our other producers, Jacob and everybody like put their heads together and they went to like it was like the farm store or something like that and bought like 3 pull start
farm
gas
store.
generators.
Yeah.
It was like the tractor store or whatever. There was like a store there that like sold tractors and things.
Yeah.
And so we ran off of those pull start generators for 3.5 days. But when that power came back on, it was a religious experience. We were all like, ah!
It came back on, and it came back on our last day.
Oh, of course,
we
yeah.
only got like half a day of it, or like a day of it, really, and then we're like, okay, let's get the hell out of this.
Right, we forgot
hellscape.
what heat felt like over those 3 days.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes. Obviously, we had no heat in the house, so there's a couple of scenes in the movie where you can see our breath inside, and I love that is not an effect of any sort. Like that's like how cold it was.
Like there's a pivotal scene where not to spoil too much, but they argue about theories of what's happening here and they have emotional breakdown, and that scene has no heat. They are freezing their ass off, and it's like barely lit with like one light outside by a generator that's barely able to hold on to that light, because it was not just like a winter storm. It was literally like rain had frozen on top of trees, and then they were so top heavy they were just falling everywhere. So we had to like leave the property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a tree that blocked the road, and so we were also sort of like stuck there till this tree was removed, but the tree like split in half because of the way that
it almost like fell on the house. That's how.
Yeah.
If it landed on the house, we're like, okay, so movie done. So
yeah. So that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then like summer, we had to, because we shot in August 2023 for the rest of it. The other crazy story was just the hustle to get our SAG waiver, because it was SAG strike at the time, and we literally had to write letters to SAG being like, please give us the waiver. We literally have 2/3 of a movie done, and the only reason why we're shooting now in August because we waited for corn to grow so we can have a time travel trick work. And if we don't get this waiver, corn's going to come and go, and then we're going to have wait a whole nother year to shoot that part, which who knows what would happen in that year. So thankfully we got the waiver like literally like the day before we had to cancel flights and everything. So we got it in right at the nick of time. That was our last crazy story. There was a lot of things that happened on this movie that almost killed it, and I'm glad it didn't exist.
It's great that it was all we always say it's like great that it was all external factors, like nothing amongst the cast or crew happened that was bad. Like everyone was so lovely and on it and professional, and we had such a beautiful time doing this. And I think that's really rare that nothing happened amongst the people working on it. If the external forces went properly, this would have been the easiest shoot in the world.
Yeah.
But that's also, not to embarrass Felker, but that's also a testament to Michael, because film sets are always, attitudes and, morale is top down always, and if your director is stewing and having a bad, day, it typically trickles down to all of us. And Michael kept such positivity, and no matter what we went through, there was never a sigh or an eye roll from our crew. Not once. They were just so on it and happy to be there and creative, and they were just like a force to be reckoned with. And that to me was like the most incredible part of doing the film, just seeing those like all these creatives just like busting their asses,
Yeah, we all became family, and I learned that from my favorite shoots, specifically the Benson Moorhead shoots, where the director of the day has to be the morale like gauge for the whole day. So even when things are tough, you still gotta not be an asshole. You can't be a dick, especially on a movie this low budget where people are barely getting paid. Like they're barely able to like be here. So I'm just like, all right, well, I got to make this fun. It's still got to be winter camp, even though the trees are falling. So,
really rolling
yeah.
with the punches. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
We had
you
a
got.
great crew.
I can get that from just the three you talking. I was like, I'm like thinking there to myself, being all selfish, and can they just do like 20 more movies together, the three of them? What is it?
We're
Yeah,
trying.
that would be great.
That would be
Yeah.
great. Let's do it. Right
Yeah,
here.
it really was. It doesn't always happen that way. You
Yeah.
don't always get, people that you meld with creatively, or personality wise. But man, the three of us were thick as thieves, even,
We all have
today. And we
matching
shot this
tattoos.
movie a year ago. We all have matching tattoos. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
do. We have
cool.
Oh, that's
our
awesome.
character
Mine's under
tattoos.
my
Some
mine's
are
under
more
my
visible than
on my
others. Yeah.
shoulder. What?
Some are more visible than others, but we all
Yeah.
have the same tattoo. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. You guys have gotten some
Nice.
great reviews. I know it's been through the festival circuit. Are there some favorite reactions to the film that you've gotten from some of these screenings?
Okay, so the one that I always remember now, and I tell this all the time, we showed it to in Switzerland this summer, like a huge small town called Neuchâtel, and every screening was like a 500 seat theater that just gets filled to the brim. And when usually you have like a Q&A, people just like, all right, you'll maybe get like a third at best. So when I visited there and did the Q&A, not one person left. Everyone, all 500 people stayed at the end of the movie, and I was very much like, what are we gonna have here? And so the first person to raise their hand got the microphone, and she's like, I don't have a question. I'm just going to yell my theory to you. And she just starts explaining every theory, what her read was on what happened in the movie. And it lasted a good 5 to 7 minutes. And the entire audience just started laughing and could not stop laughing. We were all laughing. She's like, no, I swear, this is what it is. And I'm just like, it's exactly the kind of reaction we want out of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to put it on a spotlight with literally like 500 people just like applauding her and going like, yeah. So that to me will always stick in my head as like the ultimate Q&A reaction, which was just like one person explain the whole movie to 500 people and everyone having a blast. So
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, roll it again. I didn't catch that one. I want to see it again.
Yeah.
Go back.
all I just said was, I was just like, yes. I don't even remember what the theory was. It was just very surprising because you usually just get one question. That's all. So yeah.
Yeah, the theories have been truly the most rewarding part about all of this, is just hearing people, and hearing what individuals got out of the story. I get text messages every day from people who have seen the film, and they're like, okay, so am I wrong in thinking this? And I'm like, no, you're not wrong. Like, there's really no wrongs here, like,
Yeah.
so I truly enjoy like hearing, because when you're so deep in it and you have to play things as that it comes up, that you're not really like zooming back and thinking about all the theories. You kind of have to stick with what you got, because then performance just becomes like scattershot. And so I think that just hearing people's theories from just watching the film is always so welcome and so fun to hear.
Yeah. I also have to say, even the reviews that have been like too confused to enjoy it, I also enjoy I enjoy reading them, because like art is not for everyone, and it's been really interesting seeing like who really identifies with it and who doesn't, and sometimes they are for the same reason. And I find that really fascinating. And then on top of that, what Adam said is just hearing the theories. My 9-year-old niece saw it, and she is constantly calling me, and she's like, actually, this is what I think happened. And she's like, the fact that it's getting a 9-year-old to scratch her brain and think about the possibilities has been pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would say like the best thing that I've gotten out of this now, with all the reactions, reviews, and everything from across the board, is that, and not to say this is a good thing, it's just something I've noticed, is like things will be different. It's kind of just like a mirror back to whatever the viewer kind of likes. So if you're into heady puzzle things, you're just like, all right, that's that type of viewer, and they're really into it. If you bounce off of it because you're not that type of viewer. It just revealed like, oh, I like straightforward things, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it just gave this whole litmus test that of like, here's a wider range of viewers all having a crazy different spectrum of views. And I think that's kind of cool to me. I think that's really fun.
Right. Yeah.
I think, Tim, we need to show this to Julie and Olivia because our wives are like are the ones that like
man.
5 minutes into the movie, like, okay, well, here, I figured it out kind of thing when it's like that. And I want to see if they could figure this one out.
My wife drives me crazy. Like 5 minutes into the show, she's like, okay, he's married to her. She's going to kill him. She's got that writer brain.
I wonder if that's a female thing because my husband and I were watching the original Old Boy, and I called it within 10 minutes. Have you guys?
I'm just sitting there being like, I wouldn't even know to go there, like where that movie ends up.
It's messed up that I did go there, but I said to him,
it says a lot about you, Riley.
I know. I was like, oh, that's her dad, and
that's a cool read though. The fact that it's there from the beginning and you can pick that up if you want, but if you don't, you still have a different movie that you could process. That's kind of like why I like these little movies that have all these like interconnected webs. You're just like, top layer is enjoyable and fun, but also if you read it this way, it's still enjoyable in a different way. So Old Boy's good.
So good.
So I guess we'll kind of wrap this up for you guys. So do you have any, if you can, share any of the upcoming projects you guys have going on?
Trying to get the next one going because this has been, I guess we're towards like near the back half or back end of releasing things we different because we're still out. So we'll be out digitally and Blu-ray physical release in the UK in about November 18th. We'll also have physical release in America later or early next year. So we're still rolling out the movie and then wrestling with the next project, which is either something else in the genre space, sci-fi or horror, or even the follow-up to this movie, which is already got a treatment at least, and Adam and Riley already at least got a little bit of a heads up on what it is too. So
very cool.
That's all I'll leave for there.
It's called Things Will Be Differenter.
I love it. You gotta stick with that.
I need that title, so I have to rethink a little bit.
Things will be different. I have just wrapped another indie called Abigail Before Beatrice, and that will hopefully be out next year. And then just developing stuff for me to do so that I can continue to have a job. That's it.
Yeah. Work is a funny thing in a post-strike atmosphere right now. It's the industry hasn't fully righted the ship since I would say since COVID, really. I've been doing some procedural things, usually playing a really awful human being. And really just I've been reading a lot of things that have been coming in, and I've just been picky, and I really want to invest myself fully into every project, and so it's just kind of a question of like what's next and which way do we want to start steering. And I do think that 2025 we'll see kind of a resurgence of more creative shows and TV shows and movies and things like that. So I'm excited for what the future holds when it comes to that.
Yeah.
It's been strong this year and finishing up really strong with some good stuff. So
yeah, it's starting to feel a little more hopeful at the end of the year. Nice.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, Michael, just make sure you have Riley crab walk in the sequel.
I should have never told you this.
I know, but Tim will tell you. I don't forget.
Yeah, no explanation.
Just let her do it, and then.
In fact, that should be her first appearance. It's you sitting in there, and all of a sudden she just goes. And she comes in.
Do like a recut, like just make it like a trend virally or something, where it's just like Ellen Bernstein just walking up, and she goes to the stairs, but then just hard cut to Riley doing the worm on the ground, and just that's all I want to do. I think there's something to it there.
Oh my gosh.
Why did I come on? Why did I agree to this? I don't understand.
I'm like, what? Get out of here.
Oh,
That's what
man.
I think I
family
took
does.
your
This is
last
great.
question, Tim. I think I did 2 in a row by mistake.
Oh,
So
it's fine. Yeah. So, I mean, Michael, you already mentioned the physical release. Do you guys have like a website or something you could our listeners can follow if they want to keep track on the film?
Yeah. I mean, you could follow me on Instagram or Blue Sky, and that's where I'll be talking more about where the movie's coming out and playing. In the States, you can follow magnetreleasings.com or Magnolia's website. They're posting there. And with the UK, you could follow Lightbulb Films. They're constantly promoting the film as well. So lots of different avenues to learn about things we different.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Nice.
Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah,
this was a blast.
awesome.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you for having us.
This was great. Thank you. I had a blast here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So for our listeners, definitely go check this one out. I think you guys are gonna love it.
Yeah, and going forth, you automatically you can come on whenever you guys want. If you have anything to promote separately, together, whatever, just say the word, and even if you can't make it on, and you just need us to promote it for you, just please let us know, because we're
Thank you so much.
Oh,
big
really
fans
nice.
of you
Thank
guys,
you.
and love the movie and can't wait to see more.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we love the podcast, so thank you so much for having us on. It's a real honor,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.